Everyone, I'm Jay Moran, Mayor of the great town of Manchester, Connecticut. Welcome Governor Lamont, Lieutenant Governor Leisowitz, and the crew that are behind them. Keith, thank you for having us. One of the main staples here in Manchester, the main pub. Governor, I just want to thank you. It's the third time during COVID you've come to Manchester. You came in the park, I don't know, way back late fall, early fall, talking about testing. You were here in December at the high school, passing out the last Chromebook, making sure that kids across the state were getting internet access to their homes. And Commissioner Miguel Cardona was there that day, and like the next day, he was announced as the possibly the next Secretary of Education. So my point is, when you come to Manchester, good things happen to people. So keep coming to Manchester. We really appreciate the support from the governor and the lieutenant governor during this COVID crisis. But we're here today to talk about and introduce the lieutenant governor, I believe is next, correct? Okay. We're here just to talk about the governor and tomorrow, March 19th, and of course our restaurants. And as you can see here in Manchester, Keith done a wonderful job, and the rest of his colleagues in our town. Manchester's been great to our restaurants. We've done a lot of takeout. We're looking forward to getting back in the restaurant together, obviously with our masks on, staying 6 feet apart, and being socially distanced. We all have to remember that because we're going to get through this together. But the town of Manchester has been doing great. It's been great to be here with the governor, lieutenant governor through this battle the last year and their staff. And we look forward to getting back to normal someday. But we are really grateful for what the governor's done for us and what he's doing for our restaurants. And Keith, thank you. Thank you for what you do for our community and in the restaurant community. Thank you. So I'll turn it over. Thank you. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor. It's always great to be in Manchester, which is a second home to me, as you know. Gwendolyn Thames, Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Economic and Community Development. We are joined here today, and our gracious host, Keith, founder and owner of the main pub, to really highlight, again, not only the tumultuous year that our small businesses have faced, particularly our restaurants, but really looking at the light at the end of the tunnel and all of the state and federal resources that are coming to bear have been alongside them as, again, we continue to navigate on the other side of this pandemic, particularly in anticipation of tomorrow when we are going to be loosening up and easing restrictions as we go into this, hopefully, last leg of the pandemic, if you will. So with that, I just wanted to, again, highlight state funding. To date, through the onset of the pandemic, the state has put more than $130 million out on the streets in support of our small businesses, with many of our restaurants taking advantage of that. And then coupled with that, the federal funding through the first and second rounds of the stimulus dollars through the Paycheck Protection Program, EIDL, and all the other kind of acronyms, but over $10 billion through the federal funding has come to Connecticut and our small businesses. And more recently, just in the last 2 months since the last round of the stimulus, we've already seen over $2 billion through over 30,000 loans of small businesses that have accessed PPP dollars in our state. And then on top of that, you have the rescue package that was just passed and is going through the reconciliation process, where there's more PPP on the table. They extended the deadline from the initial March 31st to May 31st. And also, which is huge for our restaurants, the $29 billion restaurant revitalization fund that is really grants oriented. So it's not loans. These are straight grants to help our restaurants with lost revenue, because again, we all know that they were struggling and the PPP had certain restrictions that they weren't able to use certain funds for. And so this revitalization fund is a huge boost and a major step to really get our businesses through this final leg. And again, now that we're loosening up and eliminating most of our capacity for most businesses, particularly our restaurants, while still maintaining face coverings, social distancing, spacing, and cleaning requirements. But again, we're here to really kind of just acknowledge this milestone and really keep at it and keep forward. So with that, we have some guests here with us today. The first one, we're going to have Scott Schultz, who's the Executive Director of the Connecticut Restaurant Association, who's really been working lock and step with our department throughout this pandemic, again, to make sure that we can keep our restaurants going. throughout this pandemic. So Scott.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. It is just about a year. It was 2 days ago, as you guys know, was the darkest day of our industry with having to shut down. And reflecting on the year, I've talked to a lot of you guys, as you guys know, it's been a challenging year without question for this industry. But you want to be hopeful and optimistic where we're going. And tomorrow is a great day. Tomorrow is a step in the right direction. Continuing to tell the people of Connecticut that it is safe to dine inside our restaurants. What they have done, it has been safe throughout, but we continue to see more and more folks getting double vaccinated, more and more people understanding the efforts that these restaurants, like Keith's restaurant that we're in today, they're making to keep you safe. And it's exciting. Obviously, yesterday was St. Patrick's Day. This weekend we have March Madness going on, and we've got Easter coming up. So really getting our restaurants back on a pathway to recovery, and it's exciting to be here and to continue to work. I would be remiss if I didn't obviously thank the governor, the lieutenant governor, Gwendolyn, everybody here that has allowed us to be part of this conversation, allowed us to work as an industry over the last year to put us on a path towards recovery. There's a lot to look forward to, not only with March 19th tomorrow, but also with the financial packages, the stimulus bills that have been passed, the support that we've continued to receive. Still not out of the woods yet, but at the same time, I'm fortunate for where we are. I'm fortunate for the effort of my team and my association moving forward and trying to help every restaurant in our state survive. We know we've lost over 600 and more were permanently closed throughout this tough winter. My job now over the next few months is to help every restaurant get back on their feet, hopefully reopen their doors. We are here at the main pub on Main Street. It celebrated 40 years in June. Knowing Keith so well and his dad, what this place means to this community is a perfect example of what we're trying to do to come back as an industry. Come back stronger. I think the governor has brought that up before. So really appreciate being here today. I don't want to be too long on the mic. I really want to turn it over to two people who mean a lot to me. Obviously, Keith is going to talk a little bit, and then also Dan Miser, our chairman of the CRA, who has 4 restaurants in Mystic. Both of them have been vital and crucial and are moving the ball forward here. So, Keith?
Thank you, Scott, and thank you for everybody being here today. It is an overwhelming feeling to, number one, have people in the room, and that was the feeling we had yesterday. With it being St. Patrick's Day yesterday, it marked basically a full year of the time when the lockdown had begun for our businesses. And for me, reminiscing on that yesterday when I had a staff that was cooking food and guests out here seating and eating and drinking, a year ago I had just had to lay off 40 people. And it was just going to be myself, my manager, and a cook. That was all that was left. We were going to try to take takeout and see what we could do and keep the doors open. That was always the number one goal, keep the doors open so that we could get through the 2 weeks to flatten the curve and be able to bring our employees back and get back to operate and do the things we do. That didn't take place, and 3 of us busted out a bunch of to-go and tried to move through all the corned beef we had bought because we knew we weren't going to be able to use all of it. We wanted to prevent as much from possible of being put back in the freezer. But after that, working yesterday and sitting down with a few of my staff, was probably the first time that I actually felt like I just sat down and thought about what this year was like and the fact that how we've come so far. And to be here and still be open and have the opportunity to have guests in here smiling and laughing and listening to Irish music and my staff, experiencing a hard work day, all that was great. When the pandemic first hit, my feeling always was, probably like most sole proprietors in this industry, we're hardworking people. We work hard. It's what we do. It's the nature of this business. We have no other choice. And if it was only going to take hard work to get through this, well then, in my opinion, the virus messed with the wrong people, because we will persevere. And unfortunately, not all of us were able to get to that point. But there are most of us in this state that did get this far with the help of those behind me. But honestly, the sacrifices fell upon the employees. My employees who had to be laid off, that didn't know where their next paycheck was coming from, calling, asking, hey, you got a few hours here and there to help me out. That was the toughest part. And in the sacrifices that our families made, I know that, I can't thank my wife enough for raising my 2 children this year, basically by herself, because I had to be here every single day. It's just been a very difficult year. And so I give credit to my staff and the families of all our restaurateurs that have had to persevere through this as well. Could not have gotten this far, absolutely, though, without the help, like I said before, first and foremost, of Scott Dolch and the Restaurant Association. From day one, the association was a very useful tool to all our restaurateurs. Scott got on conference calls every single morning, and I'd pull in this parking lot, and I'd stare out into an empty lot and knew it was going to be empty for the foreseeable future and didn't know where my future led. But people, my peers, like Dan and others in the Restaurant Association, we talked about it every day. It's kind of a misery loves comforting moment. And it was very important for us to lean on each other. And the information that flew and came forward was fast and rapid at times, especially when it came to programs and assistance that were out there. And I spoke to other business people that in other different trades that were blown away by the amount of information that I had of things that they could get assistance with and help with, whether it be at the federal level or at the state level. So I want to thank Scott. And then obviously the governor's administration, as well as Mr. Lehman at the Department of Economic. The relationship that Scott and the Restaurant Association gained with those people was a lifeline, unlike any others. They fought for us at the Capitol, and the governor, sir, you were phenomenal in regards to, when other areas maybe were rolling back, you stood strong and felt like this was what needed to be done to keep these doors open. And I thank you for that, because honestly, I feel like as Connecticut, we did a phenomenal job getting through this. We're not done yet, but I think we're definitely a model to be looked at. Obviously, the usage of the state grants, I was fortunate enough as a small business to receive 2 of those grants. I can't tell you, that helped me pay taxes. That helped me pay some bills that were starting to climb up. I don't know where we'd be without those things. And then we were very fortunate to be a recipient of the 2 PPP program monies as well. We were fortunate enough to have a patio that was already constructed, and that really gave us an opportunity to stay in business over this year. I'll be honest, if we didn't have the patio and the ability to have outside dining come May 20th, I say often I don't think we'd be here still. But today and tomorrow, again, is another step in the right direction to making this restaurant industry whole, keeping my place afloat, keeping my people employed, and the other restaurateurs in this state employed. And we've done nothing but take small little steps, with the exception of rolling back in October to 2.1. The governor and his team and the state, we really stayed on a path to not take any more step backward. It might have been a small step, but it was always, we're moving in the right direction. And tomorrow is another step in that. And to letting, and I think that also helps with the consumer confidence and letting guests know that, we have done this well. You look around you, not only my places, but places in the state. We've done a Herculean job of trying to keep our customers' feelings that they're in a safe environment and that we can operate this and we can do this correctly. Like I said, it's exciting to feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it might not be a freight train this time, because there's been many parts of the year where that literally was 1 step forward and 4 steps backwards. And so it's really, really great to have you all here today, and I look forward to having more and more people come through our doors and feel safe, and not just obviously not for this restaurant, for all restaurants in this community and all across the state. And like I said, we couldn't be here without, it took an army of people to get to this point, and the majority of those people are right behind me. So I thank all these people very much for what they've done, and I thank for the public for supporting us. And actually, I don't want to leave here without saying, the community in this, I saw people 5-6 times a week just come take out. I know there's no way they were eating all that food. One of my number 1 customers been coming here for 40 years. He came in one day and bought $2,000 worth of gift cards. A month ago, he brought them back and threw them back at me. He goes, I just want to let you know I never use these, throw these out. Like, this is what happened. This was the support. People want to see people succeed, and it's been an overwhelming experience, but one that I'll never forget, obviously, and one that hopefully makes us all better for it. So I really do appreciate your time here today. Thank you very much. Dan?
Thank you, Keith. Good morning. My name is Dan Miser from the 85th Day Food Community down in Mystic, Connecticut. We have 4 restaurants: Oyster Club, Engine Room, Grass and Bone, and Nana's, as well as our partner farm, Stone Acres. 1 year ago this week, that 500-year flood hit our industry. And that pandemic, that 500-year flood, was something that there was no playbook for. We had no idea what the future held, and we had no real plan in place. What the process quickly became for us was 3 things. It was about creativity, it was about survival, and it was about leadership. And the creativity piece, it was so humbling and so inspiring to see restaurant owners and their staffs across this state figuring out ways to make it happen. And that creativity was all in hopes of the second thing I said, which was survival. Early on in the pandemic, I was on a phone call with a good friend of mine who owns several restaurants in New York City. And while I thought I had it bad in Mystic in terms of what we were going through, when I spoke to him and I heard about what was happening in New York City, which is not that much different than what happened in the urban areas here in Connecticut, in the downtown restaurants of Hartford and New Haven and New London, I had a lot to be thankful for, and it inspired myself and my team to do whatever it took to survive. And he said to me, if you can just hang on, Dan, if you can hang on, if you can get to the other side of this, if you can get to the end of that proverbial tunnel that we all talk about, you're going to be okay. And so then we got to get into the topic of leadership. And the leadership at the Connecticut Restaurant Association with Scott Dolce at our head, our board of directors, and the folks that we worked with on a daily basis. To sum up what Keith said, it was a Herculean task. The job that they had, the job that Scott had, the job that Scott and his team had, was an extraordinary lift to try to figure out how to take one of the largest industries in the state of Connecticut, one of the largest single employers in the state of Connecticut, and a business model that operates solely on welcoming people into a space and hospitality. And we quickly find out that's the one thing we cannot do, right? That is the very thing that spreads this virus. So we were in a position that was daunting, to say the least. But because of the partnerships we had with Governor Lamont and his administration, specifically with Commissioner Lehman at DECD, I will tell you, in the early days of this pandemic, I think my wife thought there was something going on with the commissioner and I, because we'd be on the phone all day, all night, texting, and she's like, "Who is this guy?" You know, I was fortunate enough and honored to serve on the governor's Reopen Advisory Board. That was the business advisory board, where there was a group of folks from the business community across the state, representing a wide range of industries. And it was our job, under the leadership of the commissioner, to put together a plan on how to reopen Connecticut's economy. And that information was sent up the flagpole to the governor, who weighed that with all the extraordinary public health data that he was getting on a daily basis. And I'd say the outcome, the long game for Connecticut, is something that we all have a lot to be proud of. There were times where there were a lot of disagreements, and there were times when we felt that the restrictions were a little too tough. But I will say this, now that I've had a year to reflect on what the challenge was initially, the process over the last year, and where we're at now, we have so much to be proud of and so much to be thankful for. There's no question there's been folks that have been lost along the way. You know, it's we all heard the number in the fall of 600 Connecticut restaurants that were closed forever. That number probably creeped up closer to 800 to 1,000 as we got, you know, close to the holiday season and past. But for those that have survived, with the help of the state grants, with the help of the federal PPP dollars, with the extraordinary support of the communities that these restaurants represent, the backbone of small business in, you know, we made it. And while we still have a long road ahead, and there's still so much work yet to be done, the good news is that light at the end of that proverbial tunnel, we can see it. And tomorrow's a big day in that process, to be able to reach a point in Connecticut's restaurant industry where capacity restrictions are being lifted, is something that, you know, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I'm not sure when that day was going to come. So I'm so thankful that it's here tomorrow. So thank you so much for being here and covering this. Thank you, Governor Lamont, to you and your team. Thank you, Scott, to the extraordinary work of the leadership of the Connecticut Restaurant Association. So, Lieutenant Governor Weissowitz. Yep.
Thank you, Dan, and Scott and Keith. Appreciate the partnership, and just to echo that, we were absolutely building the plane as we went, and we were in uncharted territories, and it was because of that close collaboration and communication and ongoing communication that really made a better process and a better product and a better outcome, and led us to where we are here today. And so next we'll have State Representative Carolyn Simmons, who has traveled all the way down here from Stamford. So we appreciate her joining us, but she is the co-chair of the legislature's Commerce Committee, and she was, again, a partner in this lock and step in supporting us and enabling our department to do all that we could for our small businesses in our restaurant industry. So Caroline.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Honored to get to join for this important press conference. I want to thank Keith for hosting us at this wonderful pub. I did drive up from Stanford. I heard there was going to be a press conference at a pub, and I thought that sounds fun. So thank you for bringing us all together. I think this is a great preview of what's to come tomorrow when our restaurants can open at full capacity. And just want to say so grateful to restaurant owners like Keith, for Scott and Dan for all their devotion and the sacrifices they've made during this difficult year, and to get to this point where we are. And that's right. Cue the music. Yeah, that's right. And secondly. We'll get the fun started. So secondly, I want to say thank you to Governor Lamont, Lieutenant Governor Bysewicz. I want to say thank you to Deputy Commissioner Thames for their tremendous leadership over the past year, keeping our state safe, and for all that they've done to support our small businesses and in particular our restaurants. From the DECD bridge loan program to all of the low interest loan programs to getting our PPP loans out to our small businesses to enacting sales tax relief and rental and mortgage relief. They've been tirelessly devoted to our small businesses in Connecticut and have helped them weather this storm over the past year. So thank you so much to your leadership and for helping keep our state safe. And then finally, I just want to say thank you so much to all of the small business owners and restaurant owners across our state for your sacrifices that you've made. At no fault of your own, you were forced to shut down, and you made enormous sacrifices to keep your customers safe, to keep your employees safe, and you had just such resilience and devotion to your restaurants and communities throughout this time. Everything from delivering food to those in need, to doing everything you can to keep your employees on payroll, to keeping your doors open, to getting creative with takeout and delivery. You've had to make enormous sacrifices. Thank you so much for all you do for our state. You really are, the lifeblood and the heart and soul of our local communities, and we can't wait to get to enjoy your establishments at a full capacity starting tomorrow. I encourage everyone to get out there and start supporting your restaurants tomorrow. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. And our last two speakers need no introduction, but we'll have the Lieutenant Governor and then Governor Lamont come up and speak. But I just wanted to acknowledge both of them for their leadership, because without their collective leadership and all of the executive orders that enabled all of us, including DECD, to be very nimble, pragmatic, and be able to respond quickly and efficiently throughout this crisis to support our economy and our residents would not have been possible without their leadership. So, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Deputy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Our restaurant businesses are the lifeblood of our state. We have over 8,000 restaurants that employ over 160,000 people in our state. This is a big part of our economy, and over the last year and a day or two, we have witnessed restaurant owners step up with creativity, and you see it on display here, putting up lucite barriers to keep their patrons and their employees safe, building out patios and using parking lots for outdoor dining, doing takeout. And at the same time we saw this creativity, we saw this incredible generosity of people in every community across the state. They wanted to keep their main streets vibrant. They wanted to support the restaurants they loved, and we're hoping they still be here after the pandemic. So we thank people of Connecticut for their incredible generosity. Keith told a great story about the man who came forward and bought $2,000 worth of gift cards that he never used. I want to mention another example of that generosity, and that was the Connecticut Restaurant Relief Fund. There were 100 of the hardest hit restaurants across our state that got $5,000 grants from that fund. And also, the federal government was a help in a big way with the SBA PPP and EIDL loans. My message to small businesses, those PPP loans are still available. They're not gone. Please apply. There are banks that still want to help you get those. If you've gotten one round, you can still get another. Please apply for those. The restaurant business has just been through so many challenges, and a lot of those small business owners of restaurants were women. We're in a she session. A lot of the employees of restaurants are women. So I wanted to mention another program that our Women's Business Development Council and our DECD work together on. Fran Pastore, the CEO of the WBDC, and I went out to the private sector and raised over $500,000, which the DECD matched dollar for dollar. Thank you, Glenn and Commissioner Lehman for that generosity, because those equity match grants, and again, they're grants, not loans, are specifically for women and minority-owned businesses. Many restaurant owners and food service operators have gotten those, and those are still available. So please apply. They go from $2,500 to $10,000 grants. So we want everyone across the state to know that those are still available. And our administration has been very proud to work with the Restaurant Industry Association. They have been fierce advocates, and we've been very proud to collaborate with them. And we want the people of Connecticut to know how important they are to our economy, and hope that starting tomorrow, people continue to support restaurants, not just by curbside pickup and takeout, but also by coming in and enjoying beautiful restaurants like this one. And with that, I give you our wonderful governor, Ned Lamont.
Hey Keith, would you crank up the music again, man? Don't you remember how much you missed that? That's what I was thinking. I really missed that. And it is, to me, that's just a reminder of what restaurants mean. I mean, it's a great place for good food and companionship, and it also brings our towns to life. And do you remember a year ago when everything closed down? Do you remember how quiet it was? Do you remember how quiet it was? I mean, no planes flying overhead. There was no music. There's no bustle in and out. And to me, it's just a reminder of what tomorrow means, that a year later, we're back at 100%. And we're back at 100% for a couple of good reasons, not the least of which is Scott and Dan and the restaurant folks. It was tough. You know, you're right. We went back and forth. We went back and forth a lot in terms of what we had to do. But together we realized we had to do everything we could to build people's confidence. So they wanted to come back to the restaurants. They wanted to come back to eating indoors. And that's why you see the plexiglass and the incredible things that our restaurateurs did to make you feel safe. And that's how you get the state back and going again. That's how we get our restaurants going again. You heard a lot about the money. There's a lot of money thanks to John Larson and the congressional delegation. If you ever want to know how much it is, multiplied by 1%, because we haven't gotten our allocations yet. But generally speaking, if it's $28 billion, that means about 280 for us. But that's going to be for plexiglass and ventilation, but also really hope we think big and think about how we transform the state and how we transform eating. I mean, you know, I'd like to think, Jay, that outdoor dining is a much bigger part of our future. I think it's a big piece of Manchester. I think it's a big piece of bringing our towns and cities back to life. Boy, we know how much we missed it a year ago. And we got to think about how we build on that and grow on that. We're providing, with this federal money, free Wi-Fi in downtown areas. So think about what that does to bring our towns and cities back to life, so that everybody realizes what makes Connecticut such an incredibly special place. So, tomorrow's a big day. I think we've earned it as a state. I know the restaurants have earned it, and I urge each and every one of you, be cautious. We're still wearing the masks. We still have the plexiglass. We still have distancing. But come back and support your local restaurants. They were there supporting you a year ago in terms of pickup, delivering the shut-ins, making sure that folks who couldn't get food had access. And here's our chance to say thanks for everything you've done and what that means to our cities and towns in the state of Connecticut.
Thank you. That concludes our speaking program, so I will open it up for questions.
Maybe some of the restaurant owners or Scott come up and explain to us how long you think it's going to take for this industry to rebound. And obviously, you're not getting everything you want. You still are dealing with an 11 o'clock curfew and some of the other issues that you've raised.
Paul, as I've talked with the folks of the National Restaurant Association and my counterparts across the country, we know this is a long road to recovery. This is a great day and where we're going tomorrow. There's still other restrictions that we'll continue to talk about that I know people, our restaurateurs listening in, you mentioned. We hope to get there soon. It's great to see the vaccination numbers continue to rise, and we love seeing the hospitalization numbers continue to subside. So, but recovery, to your question, Paul, we've heard it could take anywhere between 3 to 4 to 5 years to a full recovery. We hope it's faster than that. I think the biggest piece to make everyone understand, and why, to the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor's point about coming out, it's been 12 months of struggle. It's been months of shutdown. It's been, capacity limitations, consumer confidence down, no outdoor dining in New England for about 5 months, as you guys know, unless you had an igloo or a greenhouse. So realistically, there's a lot of debt that's been carried. Obviously, some of these stimulus packages are going to help. But I do worry about the next 6 to 8 months to make sure every small business is given the opportunity to get back on their feet and get put back on a pathway to recovery. And I think I'll just make one other comment, too, to the Governor's point at the end is, I think it's great with the mayor here as well, hoping to expand outdoor dining again in 2021 and beyond, because we know what that's done not only for the restaurant but for our towns. We saw it happen. We saw our towns work so closely with our restaurants to be open to using a parking lot, to using a grassy space. That's huge, and we hope we can continue that. We're working with our legislators now to try to make that a reality beyond April 20th. But yes, it's going to be a long road to recovery, Paul, as everyone knows. But it's still a great day to be here and talking through where we've been in the past to where we are a year ago. So, I don't know if you guys.
I think you nailed it.
rollout instead of doing frontline essential workers. So what portion of your staff is unvaccinated, and have you heard any concerns from them about coming back to a more crowded restaurant when they aren't vaccinated yet?
Sure. As you probably know, Connecticut's restaurant teams are made up of generally a younger age population. So out of my 165, I think is where we're at, 165 team members, we have 3 that are vaccinated, and that's strictly based on age. In terms of hesitation coming back to work, I think one of the things that we did really well in the early days here in Connecticut was implement these very strict but important standards and mandates of social distancing, masks, sanitation, temperature checks for our staffs, and we've done a really good job within our restaurants of sticking to that, requiring that cooperation from our guests and from our teams. So because of that, there's a comfort level from our teams. They're all back in the restaurants, and they've been through months and months and months of indoor dining safely. So that comfort level is there.
Yeah, I would very much echo Dan's comments in regards to majority of our staff would be on the younger age side. So I would say that I don't think we have a single employee that's been vaccinated yet due to that. But much the same regards that from day one we took it very seriously in regards to health checks, temperature, sanitation, distancing, mask wearing, cleanliness. And it was my responsibility to make sure that was always being done, so that number one, everyone was safe, but obviously to create some environment where there was confidence for them to come to work and feel like they could do so. And so today, we monitor them, we make sure they keep communicating with us in regards to the environments they're coming from, where they've been, and in any circumstances where we feel like there might be a concern, we get on that right away. I don't have anywhere close to the size staff as Dan does. We've probably only got about 30 people currently working for us. But I would, the answer to that question would be that I don't think I can tell you that I have one currently that's been vaccinated.
What's your expectation regarding public confidence? Because that's something the governor has often spoke about. That you can open this place up, we can lift the capacities, we could even lift the 11 p.m. curfew, but that's not necessarily going to bring people back. So what's your expectations about the level of people's comfort with going out, and do you expect to see a big rush at the beginning of the folks who are more comfortable going out, and then sort of things subsiding?
I'll take this. No, Paul, it's a great question. I think what we've seen, this is about consumer confidence. Our industry is consumer confidence. Everything, it doesn't matter how big your restaurant is, how much you can space out, or how many seats you can have. It's about whether the comfort level of customers. And I put our industry, I've said this from the beginning, I put our industry up against any other leader. We're leaders in safety and sanitation. And I think that the message today is it is safe. It's been safe to come out to eat. I think we've seen an uptick. We saw it yesterday. We saw it really around Valentine's Day. People are starting to come out. I get calls every night of people in their 60s and 70s that haven't been out in a year that are regulars at restaurants, that they come out. And the owners are calling me just to tell me that story. I didn't know if they were okay. I haven't heard from them in a year. They used to come 3 times a week. And I saw them for the first time enjoying, because they feel safe now with both their vaccinations, and they're out supporting that restaurant beyond the takeout and curbside. So we're going to need to continue to work on that confidence. But I implore anybody listening right now that, come to the main pub, come to any of Dan's 4 restaurants and see the efforts that are made, to keep people safe and making you feel comfortable to get out. And obviously, I think we're all tired of cooking at home for the last year and want to eat out at a restaurant.
Are you guys as an association planning any kind of, a campaign, a media campaign, to sort of to build up confidence?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're in a position to do
No, Paul. I think we've continued that for the last few months. I know we had the Save CT restaurants, but now it's really going to be about highlighting our incredible industry. I think that we need people. I think people are realizing, and that's the one thing that was the message point throughout this conversation, is the community. Well, you got to look at the silver lining of this pandemic. The community support, and we have some phenomenal small businesses, not just restaurants, but our restaurants specifically in our state. Culinary tourism is a real thing. I'm excited for the spring and summer for people to want to go, to downtown Manchester to come to these restaurants, go to Mystic and go and visit and support these restaurants. And we're starting to see that. But obviously, as an association, we need to continue to make that top of mind. And I applaud even the media that are here today that have kept our industry top of mind and continue to tell every 8,000 every one of these restaurants has a story. And we hope that we can tell that story and help people come support them.
Governor, you've often stated your preference to continue to meet outdoors. It's a little chilly still at this point as spring is upon us.
I ate indoors Saturday night. I've had my second vaccine. It felt pretty good.
So you're going to be going inside restaurants yourself?
I will. Personally speaking, if it's a warm spring day, I prefer to be outside, but I feel very confident. Look at the efforts been made here to keep you safe. Absolutely.
What about the Lieutenant Governor?
He's older, so I'm not fully vaccinated yet, but I can't wait to get my second shot and be able to go to restaurants. And this weekend's going to be beautiful, so can't wait to go to an outdoor restaurant.
And so both of you are saying that you wouldn't feel comfortable eating inside if you weren't vaccinated yet?
No, but that's why I went in Saturday night. Felt great.
And Lieutenant Governor, you're not going to eat inside until you are vaccinated?
I haven't eaten at a restaurant inside, but I do support my local restaurants by ordering takeout. So that's what I've been doing, and can't wait to be fully vaccinated, so along with my husband, so we can enjoy indoor dining and outdoor dining.
And I wonder if either of you could talk to, obviously you just heard that there are a large number of staff members who aren't vaccinated yet and will be inside the restaurants. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it sounds like everyone of you would be super comfortable inside without a vaccination, but we're talking about thousands of people who will be.
Well, so the good news is that on April 5th, everybody is, regardless of age, 16 and up, can start booking vaccination appointments, and we're leading the whole country in terms of getting vaccinations into people's arms. And also by May, we'll have more vaccinations, hopefully, than people who want them. So we are very soon getting to the point that we're going to be able to meet the huge demand that is out there. I don't know if you want to add
And
anything.
I'm worried on that, but the reopening is tomorrow.
I got it, and we're doing it as fast as we possibly
Yeah, 45
can.
and above is tomorrow. But one of the things I heard over the course of the last 6 months when it came to younger workers is many of them lived in multi-generational housing. Many of them lived with a mom or a grandfather, and they really worried about coming back and the potential of infecting somebody in the greater family. We found a lot of that. So you keep asking, why did we prioritize on age? It was public health. Keep grandma and that mother safe who may be living in that same house with maybe somebody's working here in that kitchen. And everybody's going to have the access to the vaccination in less than a month, or a little over a month.
But that really question also goes to the public confidence issue, right? I mean, you know, if you're going to a restaurant and you're vaccinated, and that doesn't mean that you can't get COVID. It just means you're protected against COVID. You may not get as sick. You may not have to be hospitalized, and you certainly may not die. So, you know,
Hey
how do
guys,
you think that fits
nobody's
into
going to
the
be 1,000% safe until everybody gets vaccinated. I can't stop the economy until everybody has their 2 shots. We just don't have enough vaccine right now. What we're doing is making sure that every vaccine we get is a shot in the arm based on public health, bring down the infection rate. And that's why we're here today, because I think people are feeling more confident that in the meantime, we're doing everything we can to keep you safe. And within a couple of months, everybody's going to have access to that vaccine.
Yes, Governor, can you just remind folks the metrics that you did take into consideration to make it to this point? There was a lot of different metrics that you look at, but can you just list those and remind the public how you got to this decision that tomorrow is the day to go forward?
You know, 6 months ago, I spent a lot of time on the positivity rate because I thought it was a indicator of what was going on in terms of a community spread. I think now, with the vast majority of our folks who are most at risk, those over the age of 55, where 98% of the complications take place, now I worry a lot more about not the positivity rate, but just hospitalizations. That continues to go down. That means we have capacity to get back to a new normal as long as we're being safe about it. And that's the metric I look at, and our hospitalizations are at a probably 5-month low.
And as our vaccinations start to open up to different age groups, especially that April 5th, I've got it circled on my calendar, what do you want people to keep in mind? We know that this is going to be a process. What do you want to do to remind people that just because they can't get it that day the first time that they log on, that it's not going to come into potential?
No, thank you for that question. I'd say 2 things. There's always a big rush when you open up to a new age group. I'd urge you to be a little patient, especially if you're healthy, you're not a restaurant worker, you can telecommute, you don't have to be there. Let those who are forward-facing, maybe a little more at risk, let them get to the front of the line. I'd remind everybody that, you know, within a week of that opening, there'll be a lot more. We're getting a lot more vaccines, getting a lot more, in particular, J&J, over the next couple of weeks, and that's why we feel very confident that everybody's going to have access in less than 6 weeks. And if I had one other reminder is, you know, they said, hey, you're opening up at 100%. Doesn't that make you a Neanderthal like the governors from Texas and Mississippi? I said, a Neanderthal with a mask. We're still going to maintain some of the most important things we can do to keep people safe and to build people's confidence that you can know that you can come back to the main pub and do it safely.
you had a pretty big announcement this morning about, I don't know, I think something about gambling. That's a pretty big development. It's a big.
You guys are free. You don't have to. That's something you want. I can go on forever.
You know, just well, could you sort of frame this moment for us?
Yeah, I can frame the moment. I mean, Len's boss, David Lehman, and Melissa have been taking the lead in negotiations with the tribal chairman. As you know, Paul, it's gone on for many, many years. I think of all the things, the many things we've learned after a year of COVID is more and more the world is going virtual, and what that means. And what that means in terms of gambling. I mean, right now we have the old mechanical slot machines and some amazing casinos and people going back there. But I think more and more you're going to see iGaming, iLottery, sports betting that's online, fantasy sports. And there are a lot of moving pieces. And thanks to really constructive negotiations with the state as well as the tribal chairman, I think we have reached a good agreement. An agreement that allows the tribes to grow and prosper in terms of, iCasino games. It allows the iLottery, led by Rob Simulclair, to continue to expand that. And the three of us together will be involved in the sports betting. It's something that all of our neighbors are doing, our neighboring states are doing, and Connecticut's going to play. I think it's a way to bring our cities and towns back to life. Represents a real revenue for the taxpayers.
Do you think the sort of the economic pickle that this pandemic has put not only the state but the two tribes in contributed to this breakthrough? Because
no, I don't think so. I'll tell you what. I mean, one of the things this pandemic reminded us of, Paul, is we're not an island unto ourselves. We're part of a region. So yeah, I thought about the fact that New Jersey legalized it a few months ago, a couple months ago. I know New York is moving in this direction. Massachusetts is. So this is something we thought was the right thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do with our tribal partners who have been great partners over the last 30 plus years. And I think it's good for the people of Connecticut.
And Governor, can you talk more about the revenue aspect of this? How much will this generate, do we estimate?
I can tell you that we don't have anything in this current upcoming year's budget. It's going to take a while. We still got to go down to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We got to get some compact approvals. But I think over the next few years, I think it's going to be significant. I think it's going to be, certainly the tens of millions for each of the tribes as well as for the state, and it's going to go up from there. I think it's a big piece of the entertainment economy.
When do you expect the first legal sports bet to be laid? When do you expect the first internet gambling transaction to occur?
Where's Derek? Derek and I drove here today. I said I was ready to bet on the Yankees and he could bet on the Red Sox. But I think it's going to take a little longer than that because we have a variety of approvals we need. Paul, as you know, we got to go through the legislature and get the compact, reworked. We got to figure out what the regulatory process is going to be. So it may not be until later this year.
Governor, regarding the American Rescue Plan, do we have an idea yet of how many restaurants will qualify, how many businesses will qualify, can people qualify if they've already gotten PPP in the past?
Yes. The answer is whether you've gotten PPP in the past makes no difference. You're still qualified for this. But as I was telling Scott, use this to think creatively about how you can reinvent your restaurant industry and what that means in terms of outdoor, more broadly, bringing our cities to life. I just got off with all the educators, the superintendents and the teachers. There we've got $1 billion. And that's not just for ventilation and masks. That's to make sure that all those kids have been left behind, they come back up to speed. And that's not just for this year, but that's over the next couple of years. How do we reinvent a restaurant? How do we reinvent gambling? How do we reinvent education and make sure we learn from this last year? Thanks everybody.